Please let me know once you guys are able to see the screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, as requested, I mean, this was long pending. Mama's been telling me that we should have a talk about millets for a very long time. And personally, I was held up with my father's ill health and things like that. And this finally happened. And this is something that I've been looking forward to doing it. And I'm glad that Sheila ji is joining me in this, because having one more person from within the group who vouches for it makes it more what do I say, the stress of it gets a little higher.
Thank you, Rashmi. It was wonderful. Like I said earlier, it was wonderful coordinating with you for the past 1 week. And I think a big thanks to GP Health team for motivating me to get into this.
All right. I would want to start by asking what everybody understands by millet. I mean, this is something which is catching up and is very trendy now, and people just talk about millets, millets, millets every day. So, what do you guys understand about millets? Does anybody want to, like, quickly share?
Nachini, I understand. Nachini.
Nachni. Okay. Nachni is ragi. Yeah. 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 Right. Ragi is something that we've been using for very long time, but we did not know it was classified as a millet. So it falls under a millet category. Yes.
The healthier option to carbs is what I've understood. Millet.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Whatever you heard is right.
And it's local also, as in it's native to us. So we seem to
Right.
quinoa is not a millet we should take. We should be eating all our pork millet and all the ragi and all what we have instead of supporting those millet. That's what I've heard.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm a little confused. Why rice is not a millet? Rice, wheat, and all?
They are grains.
Grains, yeah. Okay, why? What is the grains? I mean,
Yeah, all of them fall under the category of grains, but it is not classified as a millet. Like, each of them have a separate name. These are tiny grains which are called as millets, because this is something that I heard from my sister-in-law, who was much more into millets than I am. So she was telling long back when people used to grow, let's say, wheat, rice, and other crops, and these millets used to grow in between them like weeds. So something that could not be milled, like you did not made atta out of it, was classified as a millet. Which kind of made sense to me, but I could not find any proof of it, so I haven't added it on today's list.
Also, I think in the cultivation, Rashmi, I think the grains would be seasonal in the sense twice a year you would get a crop. Whereas millets, because they're smaller and they're shorter, what I've seen, the ragi fields and all, they get crops 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah. And there's also classification of C4 and C3 kind of grasses. So wheat and rice fall under C3 and C3 kind of grasses, which require what do I say, more colder climate, and I mean they need more wetness. So there's a lot of water that's necessary for them to grow. C4 classification, which would not require as much as water, and they also grow in arid climate, and they're indigenous.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, with this, I go on to my next slide, talk about what millets are. We generally call millets is not just one millet, one type of millet, it's a collective term. Millets, there are thousands of types of millets across the world. The commonly known millets like ragi, bajra, jawar, quinoa, which is kind of catching up now. Other than that, there are proso, foxtail, little, brown top, barnyard, kodo, which different type of millet. And these millets are they're indigenous, as in they grow in particular type of region, and these fall under cereals too. But then these are smaller than the regular grains that we see, especially rice and wheat. And these are packed with lots of nutrition. They're rich in carbohydrates, proteins, multiple vitamins, minerals, and various micronutrients, which you don't find in our regular consuming cereals like rice and wheat. And again, these are C4 type of grass, which you just spoke about, which can be grown in arid climate. Like it can grow up to in climate up to like 45, 48 degrees, where growing anything else is almost not possible, with less or almost no rains. So with the current climatic conditions of global warming and lesser water and things like that, growing millets is not only going to be beneficial for people to consume it, it's also good for the earth, because this also does not require taking extra care to be grown, where you'll have to add a lot of chemical fertilizers and things like that to make sure that they grow well. They just grow.
Yes, Rashmi, I think the source of information for all this, I think you and me, we have been referring to Dr. Khadar Wali,
Yeah.
known as the Millet Man of India. And actually, I had no idea about millets till about 10 months ago, until lockdown happened. And you know how it was during lockdown, I used to read every good morning message and every video that came on my WhatsApp. And one fine day, one of my husband Naveen's friend, he sent him a video which belonged to Dr. Khadar Wali, explaining about millets. And he shared it with me, and out of curiosity, I just happened to switch it on, and it was a long video, about I think for 1.5 to 2 hours. And I just couldn't put my phone down, because what he made what he spoke made so much of sense, and it was so interesting, and I found it like I was hooked onto it. And then I went on to look into more videos and read a lot about this in the pandemic. So in a way, I think this pandemic has helped me a lot to shook me out of my just rice and chapati diet and brought me into this healthy one.
Nice. Yeah, most of the information, as Sheila ji mentioned, is inputs from publicly available information that Dr. Khadar and his team have been putting together.
Yes.
He is well known as the Millet Man of India. He by profession is a PhD holder who has done his PhD in steroids. He worked in multiple companies in the US. He came back to India. He worked at Mysore, which I don't remember the name of the company.
DuPont, I think. DuPont. He worked with
Yeah.
DuPont,
Yeah. So he came back to India, did a lot of research on millets. Currently, he grows his own food, and he also helps out a lot of people with their ailments. Ailments to the extent of he's been helpful in helping. He's been helpful in getting people cure their cancers also.
Yes. And he happened to find out that the millets contain healing properties in his research.
Absolutely.
Yes, he was just doing research on millets, and then he found that they have these healing properties as well. And he's amazing. I mean, there is a WhatsApp group, there is a Facebook group, there's a Telegram group, and anybody can just write about their ailment, and the response time is so quick. Everything is free and it's so quick, and like they really guide you well in whatever you want to know.
Yeah.
So you can move to the next one, Rashmi.
Yeah. So talking about the history of millet, so a little bit of reading that my family and we have done, and some points that I thought I could put together about the history of millet. Millets are not something that are new. This is something that's been existing for I don't know how many years ago. Okay, there's this book called Concise History of South India, authored by a Japanese author called Noboru Karashima. It's a Oxford University publication. where he speaks about Neolithic age in South India. So Neolithic age stands out because that was the age where cultivation started. Before that, people were hunter or gatherers, where they never stayed in a place. So in Neolithic age was when they started, like occupying areas and started growing food for themselves. So at that age, they have found that in the south of India, pulses like horse grams and green grams were being grown, and millets like ragi, jawar, foxtail also were cultivated. And these were indigenous to South India. When this is something that happened much before travel and things like that happened, right? Most of the times, if we hear people speak, everybody says that millets came from Africa. They're basically from Africa, but there was proof found that there was millet being grown in parts of India much before people knew Africa existed. Right, so this is so old. There's also mention of millets in our Yajurveda texts and a lot of other mythology, where they speak about foxtail millet as Priyangava and barnyard millets and black finger millets, which shows that millets were being consumed very commonly. And this was predating the Indian Bronze Age, which is 4500 BC. Okay, and I was listening to one of Dr. Khader's videos to gather information, and I came across something very, very interesting. So in a video about foxtail millet, he mentions that during the third avatara of the Dashavatara, Varaha Avatara, Vishnu fought Hiranyaksha, the demon, who took earth and put it under the sea. And Vishnu took the boar. He came as a wild boar, and he fought the demon, and he got the globe, the earth, from below the water. That's the story, right? So there is this part of the story where he says because they fought underwater, the god's lungs kind of got affected, and he was tired by the time everything was settled. So his bhaktas asked him, "What do you need to recover?" And at that time, he says, "Give me Priyangu Payasa," which is nothing but foxtail millet. So there are mentions like this in our ancient scriptures also. And
that reminds me, Rashmi, there's one more reference here which I would like to make. The country that now we would not like to hear much about, China. So this particular information was sent to me a little while ago by Renuka, who's Rekha's daughter, and she's also a lot into millets and uses millets in her cuisines. So the history, according to her, it states that today is the third day of Chinese New Year, and on this day, in honor of Lady Nua, who is considered the goddess of Chinese mythology.
Okay.
In her honor, people today cook and eat only millets.
Oh.
They do not cook rice.
Okay. Oh. A good day that is chosen to talk about millets then. Okay, and there also have been mentions of various types of millets being found in Egyptian pyramids, like when the pharaoh dies, they, for the afterlife, everything is put together for the king, and the king is mummified and put under the pyramid. So there have been different types of millets found in the pyramids also. So this is, I don't know how long back.
Long ago, yes.
Yeah, the cultivation of millets or consumption of millet goes. So if millets have been something that existed for such a long time, what happened that the current generation or the previous generation is not aware of? What happened that it kind of got lost in time? Right? So during the last 50 years, where India wanted to modernize, somewhere during the course, we lost the ancestral coarse grains, because these grains, millets, are not soft. They're heavy, and they're heavy for digestion also, if not cooked properly.
Yes.
So there's a protocol that needs to be followed for proper cooking and consumption of millets. So somewhere it's seen as a tedious job to the refined diet where everything is readily available, you just have to pay, buy, eat, right? During this transition, millet somewhere got lost. One of the major things that happened in India was the Green Revolution. So what happened post independence was, sorry, there were frequent droughts, famines, and financial instabilities, and low productivity. There was nothing standardized in India, which led to a lot of people dying of hunger and things like that. So finally, during the drought of 1964 to 1966, 2 years that we had a continuous drought, the then Agriculture Minister, Mr. Chidambaram Subramaniam, he said, let's bring about a change. At that time, he got in touch with a person called Norman Borlaug, who was, he's basically an American who was researching about wheat in Mexico. He got in touch with him, and then the guy, Norman, who was researching about on wheat, I'm looking at genetically modified wheat, where you can grow 3 times the wheat at the same time. And with a lot of hunger that was prevailing at that time, this seemed to be a good option. So that wheat was brought to India, and then the wheat cultivation started. And because you could grow 3 times the food given that period, and there was a long time hunger that was prevailing, feeding people became a main thing then.
So yield-wise also, I think the rice and wheat gave more yield than the millets, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So at that time, when they came up with these with these kind of wheat, and with required fertile land and continuous supply of water and things like that, where Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh were the main areas where wheat could be grown.
Yes.
And that's where there are a lot of rich farmers from these areas. They prospered. They started growing wheat. They started supplying it throughout India. The hunger was answered. People got rich. There were a lot of subsidies given. This also led to growth of using machines for manufacturing, for farming, more usage of chemical fertilizers and pesticides and insecticides and whatnot. Of course, there was economic growth with all these things, and people were happy that they got food to eat. But during all this progress, the nutritional value of the food was not considered. Somewhere it kind of got lost. And that's where our lifestyle-related health issues like diabetes, BP, and the more recent problems of infertility among men and women, PCODs, and things like that started.
So basically, this was
and the youngsters now are kind of
Rashmi, this was the era where India began to be known as an agricultural nation.
Right. Yeah.
That was one of the main reasons also why people started forgetting about millets, because they wanted to continue with the tag. I mean, whether political.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So for political reasons, for the growth of the economy, for whatever reasons, all this happened.
Yes.
Somewhere the nutritional value of the food kind of got lost. So I was reading about this where it said 40% was the millet share of the total food grown in India, which drastically came down to about 20%.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So it somewhere got lost. There's this interesting book called India Unbound by Mr. Gurucharan Das. If you guys get a chance to read it, it's one of the books that is highly recommended to be read. And quite some information on this slide or whatever I just spoke about is from this book. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So now we saw millet was being consumed earlier, and we know how healthy our grandparents were and their grandparents were, and we never heard of things like BP or sugar or anything like that. And these are all like very recent things. So if we switch back to what our grandparents were doing and eating, I think most of our regular illnesses can get resolved. So looking at if you're consuming the right type of millets regularly, it helps maintain our blood sugar levels. There's something called as glycemic index, which I feel is a very important thing to understand for all of us, immaterial of what our age is. Each and every food has X amount of glucose and X amount of fiber in it, right? The higher the glycemic index, the quicker the glucose gets released into our body. You feel extremely energetic at that point of time. Like, for example, banana. When I eat banana, the very next minute I know I'm energetic, right? So there's a high level of glucose that's getting pumped into my body. But then, how good is it? How long is it going to stay, right? And how many bananas am I supposed to be eating? I'm just using banana as an example here, right? So all the studies show the lower the glycemic index of any food, the better it is for your health, because there's a very slow and steady release of glucose into your body, which means you stay energetic for long. And that's something that is going to help all of us. So if there is a very slow and steady release of glucose in our bloodstreams, the sugar levels are maintained then and there. So the problem of diabetes is attended to. The insulin release in the body against processing of sugar and things like that, you can keep a watch on that right there. My father has been diabetic for last 20 plus years, and he has been on regular insulin injections and everything. Recently he was hospitalized because he had problems with his kidney and his heart. So when at the hospital, he used to have breakfast at the hospital, and then the other two meals, his lunch and his dinner, we used to get it from home, which used to be strictly millets. So every time he had his breakfast, and after breakfast, we check his sugar, it used to fluctuate anywhere between 200 and 250. And when he eats millets for lunch and we check his sugar before food in the night, before his dinner, it's in 80s and 90s. And again, when you check sugar in the morning, it's in 80s and 90s. That was proof right there, which said when you're consuming millets, your sugar levels are taken care of. Because he was at the hospital and his sugar levels were monitored clearly, we had something that we could just point a finger at and say, this is what is happening. And I'm talking about my father, something that I have seen myself.
I know. That's amazing the way it has an effect on the.
Yeah, absolutely. And millets are also rich in dietary fibers, which are both soluble and insoluble fibers. Insoluble fibers are also known as prebiotic fibers, which support the good bacteria in our digestive system. The more the bacteria in our system, the better the digestion and better the processing of the food that happens. So on those lines, insoluble fibers really help us. And then there are soluble fibers which help us reduce the amount of bad cholesterol in our body. It literally dissolves the bad cholesterol along with the food, and it takes it away. So when there is less of bad cholesterol in our body, the better is our heart. Right? And millets are gluten-free, which is very good for your gut health, for your intestine, because most of these micronutrients get absorbed in the gut. When there is gluten in the food that we consume, they form a thin layer around our guts. So because of that layer, the micronutrients from a food do not get absorbed, which leads to multiple deficiencies, vitamin B12 being one of the major ones that's talked about these days. So millets being gluten-free is extremely good for our gut health. Hence, attending to issues like flatulence, bloating after consuming food, constipation, cramping, irregular bowel movements, all these are answered to because of the high fiber content in the millets. And because all our organs are taken care of, everything is functioning properly, our immunity automatically gets better. Your body is able to do what it is supposed to be doing because each and every part of our body is being nourished, right? And because this is a high fiber food, once you eat little quantity of millet, I mean, of course, the quantity of food I eat to what mama eats to what you would eat is different. But then when you have consumed sufficient amount of food, you will not feel hungry for long. So the cravings for eating food in between, let's say chips and cake and those quick bites, that reduces. The bakery items, you don't crave for such food anymore because you're full already. And because of which, it's very easy to manage your weight. And then millets is rich in phytochemicals, which help lower the formation of cancer cells. And it has been proven as a good solution for colon, breast, liver cancers. And these cancer cells are kind of, their formation gets ceased, and there's no damage or hampering cost to the normal cells.
Yeah, Rashmi, I just want to add here that I heard a video of Khadar sir where he mentioned that not only cancer, they are able to address even Parkinson's and latest is autism, because he believes that a proper millet diet is able to calm the nerves and balance the microbial imbalance, and they were able to even address these issues. So the multiple health benefits of millets are amazing,
Yeah, true. And it's really interesting to listen to these talks. There are lots of videos available. There's a lot of written content available on the net, freely available. We can share the links where you can go and subscribe to those channels and listen to more of this and gather more information.
True.
Okay.
I think one reason that I would say millet lifestyle is not being popularized is the pharma industry, and the pharma industry has not been very encouraging for obvious reasons. Because
Right.
if all of us end up eating millets and follow a healthy life, they would not be doing well. So that is, like Khadar sir says, that is one of the reasons why they have that lobby has kind of hushed it up.
Right. I agree. So it's like, if people don't fall sick, nobody goes to the hospital. There's no need for prescription, no medicines necessary.
Yes.
So there's a lot of people who are going to get affected because of this. Eventually hits the economy of the country. Okay, we're not headed that way. We'll talk about millets
Later.
Yeah. Okay, so with these benefits, I'm stressing upon the glycemic index part of the millets over here, because the glycemic index of this list of millets, which Dr. Khadar calls as positive millets, is lesser than 10, which is extremely good for our body. So there's this chart that he's prepared. So if you look at the last column over here, which is the carbohydrates to fiber ratio. I mean, of course, you can look at the other points also, but this is something that I'm stressing upon, right? So for each gram of carbon, this is for 100 grams of each of these grains. When you're looking at 100 grams of each of these grains, this is the amount of niacin, riboflavin, thiamine, and carotene, iron, calcium, phosphorus, proteins, minerals, carbs, and fibers that's available. So if you look at this list of positive grains that he says, is everything is less than 10, which is very, very, very good for your health. And then there is this set of neutral grains which have higher carb to fiber ratio. And then there are, can you guys see this at the bottom, or is kind of getting cut? There's wheat and paddy. You guys can see it, right?
Wheat, I think, is visible. Paddy probably is.
Paddy.
Right. Maybe you can just
It's
mention
hidden.
that.
Negative grains is not seen.
Yeah, you can just mention that, Rashmi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it has about 395 carb to fiber ratio. rice, which is extremely high. Somebody is unmuted and hey guys. Yeah.
Have muted. Vijay has joined. I muted him.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
he's attending something else also.
Okay.
But why is this called negative grains,
Yeah,
Rashmi?
this is mainly based on the GI index.
Mm-hmm.
Positive grains are something which are going to help you heal your sicknesses.
Okay.
These do not cause harm, the neutral grains, but then the negative grains are going to harm you. That's how it's classified.
The glucose part, right? That you were
Yeah.
mentioning.
Yeah.
So what she means is the positive grains, when you consume any of the positive grains, the amount of glucose, the release of glucose is very, very slow compared to the neutral grains like ragi and jowar or bajra.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you eat rice and wheat, according to Dr. Khadar, there is a flood of glucose within 2
Yeah.
hours, I think. Right,
Right.
Rashmi? Yeah.
Right, that's right. And your body really cannot take it. So
Yes.
at the end of it, it's harming your body.
Okay.
Okay, a little more detail on this. So Dr. Kader, based on a lot of deep research on multiple food grains, has categorized the grains. Has categorized the grains as positive, neutral, and negative grains. So the positive grains, the 5 grains that he keeps repeating, talking about a lot are little millet, foxtail millet, barnyard millet, kodo millet, and brown top millet. These are the millets which have disease curing properties. So that's why they're called as positive millets, right? The consumption of these millets on a regular basis uh, for X amount of time is going to help you cure your underlying diseases. So there's a big list of diseases and what millets need to be taken for how many days,
Yes.
days and along with a certain type of kashai and all of that. They made a big PDF out of it. So that PDF I will give it to Mama and she can circulate it on the group. You guys can go through that. You know, a lot of information over there, much more than what I have put together. And then there are new, but then the thing of positive grains is it may not be available everywhere every time. So if you don't find any positive grains, you could consume neutral grains, because though they do not cure any underlying disease, but then they're not harmful for your body. Millets like ragi, bajra, proso millet, which is also called as wari or china, great millet, which is jawar. The corn over here is the traditional corn and not the American sweet corn, which is very famous these days. American sweet corn is a genetically modified corn. So anything that is genetically modified is not good for our health. It's as simple as that. Anything that has been there naturally available without a human tampering its quality and quantity and things like that is what is good for health. Even though processing it and preparing something out of it or chewing it and eating it is difficult, but what nature gives us is what is best for us. And then talking about wheat and paddy, which is rice, they have harmful effect to our systems because of their high glycemic index. I agree there are people who would like to consume rice and wheat even after all the talk that's happening. I mean, in fact, at my place also this is going on. Some like a part of my family is not having millets regularly. So what I am trying to do is get whole grain, whole wheat, and whole unpolished rice.
Yeah.
At least on those lines, there is some nutritional value added. The bran of the grain contains most of the nutrition in it. So when we eat white rice, the bran is polished off. So there is absolutely no nutrition left out, which just leaves us with the starch part of it, which is just sugar.
And these unpolished grains are easily available nowadays. I mean, whether online or Amazon or Big Basket or even any organic shops.
Right.
It's mentioned on the packet like unpolished. And even if you see grains, as you get more and more educated about millet, you will see that the polished ones, of course, have a little bit of shine. And when you wash them, they will not leave out any muddy water, whereas the unpolished ones are very simple and very plain Jane kind of thing, and when you wash it, there'll be muddy water coming out. So over time you will know how to recognize unpolished grains. And like she said, it's very important that you eat unpolished grains only, because the top layer is the most nutritive part. It's like, how like an apple, if we peel off if we discard the peel contains most of the nutrition. Or in like say peanuts, right? So peanuts, it's always advisable to eat it with the peel. The red skin has more nutritive value than the peeled ones, the white ones. So it's similar to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And unpolished, this applies to all our dals also.
Yes. Yeah.
Wherever possible, try to consume unpolished, or at least, one time polished, wherever not available. So just be a little more thoughtful about what you're purchasing and eating, because at the end of the day, our health is what matters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to add a small thing here. I think the other day when we were discussing about millets with Subhash and Rekha, and he mentioned what would be the cost of millets. Are millets very costly, or for a common man? So one thing, yes, the cost of maybe per kg millet ranges anywhere between 96 to 98 minimum. I mean, if you buy it from a wholesale shop or a small kind of shop. But if you go to branded organic stores, the price would be more. Or even if you buy online, the branded online ones organic ones would be more costly. But one is considering the health benefits that it gives you, and for your family, it is definitely worth it. And secondly, like I mentioned that day, uh, millets is like, if you eat a small portion of millets, like Rashmi said, you feel full. It's not like rice where you can take a second helping or third helping. You cannot eat more than a specific quantity. So in that way, it is like bhavarta, like masta bhavarta. If you make 1 cup of millet, it will easily say maybe 4 people or 5 people can easily eat that at a time.
True. And to add to what Shilaji just mentioned, there also are different types of the same millet. There are different types of little millet available, different types of foxtail millet available. So depending on the quality of the millet, the prices differ.
Correct.
So you probably want to, like if you're buying for the first time, you want to buy little from multiple places and see which you find it to be the best, like the taste wise and cooking and things like that. And then you decide which one you want to go for.
And Rashmi, I think they have shelf life also, right?
Yes, they do.
So it's always better to buy small quantities initially till your body gets used to millets and your family gets used to the taste, because it's not like a McDonald's burger where you just fall for it. You have to develop a kind of taste for millets. So it's always advisable to buy in small quantities and then gradually maybe make it more frequent.
Yeah.
So
okay, moving on. Okay, a little more information about the positive millets. I have added images of the millets because this happened to me, right? I just went into a store with the name of the millet, to a Kirana store who sells millets. He buys millets from different places in Tamil Nadu. He gets them in these 25 kg bags, and he gives you a half kilo, 1 kilo, whatever you want. So when I went and asked him to give me a particular type of millet, he gave me something else. And I didn't even know what he gave me was something else till very recently. So getting familiar with the way millets look is important, because most of the brands have the names written on them, but then if you go and get it from these wholesalers where they get these 25-50 kg bags and then they give it to you in the quantities that you require, it's important that you know what these millets are. Okay, so starting with little millet, which is slightly off-white in color. It looks like there is mud coated on this millet, like that's the color it looks like. Um, but then the nutritive value of it helps cure diseases which are related to reproductive organs, reproductive system, gastritis, joint pains, indigestion related, constipation related. Constipation, in fact, falls under all the millets, but this in specific can do you more good. So again, millets have to be soaked for 6 to 8 hours before cooking, because it's high in fiber. Unless it is soaked well, your body will find it very difficult to digest. Initially, when I was experimenting, there were days where I was lazy to soak them and cook them. I have cooked them like that, consumed, have had severe constipation problems to that an extent that I had to take medicine for constipation. So soaking of millet is an extremely important step not to be skipped. If you haven't soaked millet, don't eat millet that day. So it's that important. Moving on to foxtail millet, it's slightly yellowish in color, called navane. This is more, many people know about this. Navanakki. This has the highest percentage of protein, to that an extent that it has 12% of protein. And if you do not eat dal for the day, also your protein requirement for the day is met just by eating foxtail millet. It helps cure nervous system related disorders like psychological disorders, Parkinson's, and epilepsy. And again, soaking is a necessity. Moving on to kodo millet, it is reddish in color. Even after you have washed it and soaked it, the water looks reddish. It's the natural quality of this millet. So don't think that there's still mud left. Wash it like a couple of times and soak it and keep it. It's okay. Cook it with the reddish water. That's fine. It's very good for the blood. It clears off all the impurities in your blood. It helps attend to anemia, weaker immunity, diabetes, constipation. It also helps in insomnia related problems. You can sleep better if you are consuming kodo millet. And then there is barnyard millet, which is whitish in color. This looks similar to little millet, but barnyard is whiter than little millet. And it is excellent for the health of liver, kidney, and excess bad cholesterol and endocrine glands. This again has to be soaked before cooking.
And barnyard is also known as varai, right?
Yeah.
Which our grandmoms used to have it on Ekadashi.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yeah?
Right. Yeah.
Worry.
Yeah.
And most of these millets are something, at least millets that we have come across, our grandmas have been having this during the fasting days of Ekadashi and
Correct.
Sankashti and
Navratri
Navaratri times and all that. We have come across these during our childhood also. It's just that we did not know
Yes.
that it was so good for our health. Okay, going to brown top, which again is packed with a lot of nutrition. This is good for curing digestive system related issues, arthritis, hypertension, thyroid, eyes, obesity. It's tan in color. It looks totally different from foxtail millet. Foxtail goes a little yellowish. This is more on the browner side of it. And then if you hold both the millets in your hand and see, like, hold foxtail in one and you hold brown top in one, you can differentiate between them. They're visually different. Yeah. Sheilaji, do you want to add anything to this list?
No, I just want to tell people that this detailed information that Rashmi has shared with us, these positive millets together, these 5 type of millets are known as Siri Dhanya. Okay, Siri Dhanya. Rashmi, what is the meaning of Siri Dhanya? Is it a Kannada word?
Yeah, Siridhanya is a Kannada word. Siri
Okay.
is like the best or
Okay.
wealth. These come with a wealth of nutrition.
Hmm.
So, and these are the best that you can consume.
Yes. Okay.
So they are put together and called
So if we
Siridhanya.
just Google on Siri Dhanya, I think we can get information about these positive millets, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, Khadar sir's website itself is called as siridhanya.org, I think.
Ah, right.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah, he always refers to them as Siridhanya.
Hmm.
And also, it's important to soak. I mean, I've been mentioning this. It's
Yes.
important to soak millets for 6 to 8 hours and cook in the same water, because that water would have got some nutritional value because it has been in touch with the millet.
Yeah.
So wash it thoroughly, soak it, use the same water to cook.
Yeah.
So yeah, adding on to it, we just covered this point where they're rich in dietary fiber, so it has to be soaked well before we cook it. And then cooking millets in other pots is more beneficial for health. Various traditional and modern dishes can be prepared with millets. Sheila, do you want to talk about the ambli?
Yeah, I would like to talk about
Yeah.
Ambli. Now, basically, Ambli it means fermented food. Okay, now according to Dr. Khadar, fermented food is very, very beneficial for our body, and he says that it helps in the microbial balance. It balances the microbes in the body, and most of the microbes go and settle down in the intestines, and so these are also known as gut microbes.
Yeah.
So what happens is these are particularly the lactobacillus microbes. These are very important for our body, and unfortunately, according to him, he explains like when we are born, our body is having the right amount of microbes, but over the years, like it could be due to overuse of antibiotics, or it could be a simple thing like consuming milk, dairy. uh, Dairy itself may not be harmful, but he says because the steroids are injected into the cows and the buffaloes to give more yield of milk, those steroids indirectly get into our bodies and they kill these good microbes, and in as a result what happens is our defense mechanism falls, and we are prey to any kind of diseases. So similarly, antibiotics also. I mean, you must have heard from the doctors themselves saying that too many frequent antibiotics can make you weak. Weak is because the balance is broken somewhere. So basically, these microbes, what they do is they soothe our body and they prepare the right amount of B12 that is required for the body. And this B12, like wherever you read, it says you eat meat and you get B12. But why do you eat meat? Because those animals have produced the kind of B12 that is needed for their body. So when you eat meat, that B12 is absorbed in your body. But we have to remember that each living being is made up differently. Human beings are made up differently, animals are made up differently. So the kind of absorption that you're expecting by eating meat just to get B12 is not meant for your body. So when your microbes are not in balance, your B12 is affected. You are asked to consume B12 tablets, and that again causes some difference in the balance, because your B12 levels may not be absorbed, or it may be too much for you, or it may not suit you, or this one thing leads to other. So once the microbial balance happens, your health is restored. This is what Dr. Khadar, he keeps saying this again and again in most of his videos. So he says, how do you get how do you get this balance? By eating fermented food. Now, the first thought that comes to us when we say fermented food is idli or dosa or buttermilk. Now, again, milk as such, he says don't consume directly. But when you make curd out of it and you make buttermilk, that is still better compared to consuming milk directly. Because why? It is because it is fermented. So similarly, ambali is also a fermented preparation, and it is not just in India. Like across the globe, you have fermented porridge. So ambli is basically आता आम्ही paz म्हणतात नाही, something like that. So it is prepared, it is cooked, and then it is allowed to ferment. This is the overall preparation of ambli. Okay, so just to tell you how it is done, like you take any millet. I mean, you start with a small portion. Okay, say a small cup of millet, a very small cup of millet. You roast it. Now, why do you roast? Roasting has no medicinal property. It is just to enhance the taste. Chike bhat chai, dry roast, and then you wash it well, and then you allow it to soak. Like Rashmi said, you need to soak it for 6 to 8 hours at least. And what happens? Why do you need to soak these millets? Again, I just want to reinstate again. Now, the structure of a millet grain is such that it is in concentric circles. Am I visible? I think my light went off. Am I visible?
Yeah, we can see you, Sheila. Carry on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the structure of the millet is such that the protein and the carbohydrates are arranged in concentric circles, and from the center it goes into concentric circles to the outer periphery. So when you soak the millet very well, say for 6 to 8 hours, the fiber in the innermost concentric circle will get cooked when it is easy to cook and it is easy to digest for the body to take in. And not only that, when you soak the millets, any phytic acid is released, and the phytic acid actually prevents the absorption of all the nutrients. So when you soak it very well, it helps in absorbing all the nutrition in your body. This is one of the main reasons, like Rashmi said, we need to soak any millet for any preparation. Soaking is very important.
But Sheila, why you said you have to first roast before soaking?
Yes, roast is just see. What happens is, like we said, the shelf life of millet is say maybe 3 to 4 months. So suppose you got a millet and it has been lying inside for a month or so. So soaking just ensures that you freshen it up on one hand, and secondly, it enhances the taste. The raw taste is not there when you make the final dish.
But how long you have to roast? Means how much?
No, just little bit. Hunnar chai. Just hunnar chai.
Gulab
Yeah.
What happens is when you start roasting it, you have to make sure that you roast it on a very low flame.
Yeah.
It starts smelling nutty. Like when you roast peanuts, the smell that you get when peanut is roasted well, before it turns black, you're not you're not making it black. It shouldn't
After
get charred.
After that you cool and then soak.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you roast it till you smell it nutty.
Yeah.
You can make out the smell of it. It smells nicer.
And so you soak this, and the amount of water that you soak depends on what you're preparing. Okay, now here, since it is ambali, since it is like paz, the amount of water would be at least 8 to 10 times. Okay, please note, you will need for one small glass of millet, you will need at least 8 to 10 times the amount of water. And you soak it well, and then you drain the water. You do not discard, because most of the millet nutrients, they are all water soluble. So the water is also as precious as the millet. So you use the same water, you heat the water, allow it to boil, and then you put the millet and you keep stirring, and you cover it a little, and once in a while keep stirring, and then you will know it will turn soft, and once you touch it you will know that it is cooked well. Now, according to Dr. Khadar, like Rashmi said,
Sheila, one question. You said for 1 glass of millets we have to use 8 to 10 glasses of water, is it?
yes.
This is only for this ambali preparation or only
Yes.
for ambali preparation?
Now, if you're making, okay, let me finish with ambli, then I'll tell you the
Okay.
ratio of water for other dishes also. Okay, so like I said, Dr. Khadar says that you please cook in earthen pot, so that it's always more nutritious, and the flavor is also very different when you cook it in an earthen pot. So he recommends that you cook it in earthen pot. You keep extra hot water ready, because if you find that it again depends on which type of millet you're using. Like some millet may need more than 8 glasses, some millet may need less than 8 glasses. So as you start preparing, you will know over time. So if you need to add more water, do not add cold water. Keep hot water ready and keep adding little hot water, and allow the amli to be cooked well. And once it is cooked, keep it there and keep it closed with the lid. And once it is cooled down, then you tie the mouth if you can see the earthen pot here, that mouth of the earthen pot. So tie it very well with a cloth, okay, with a clean cloth, and
A cotton cloth.
cotton cloth, yes, and keep it again, leave it to ferment for about 10 hours or 8 hours. They again depend on the place that you're living. Like in Bangalore, we need more time, we need at least 12 hours. Now more warmer places, maybe within 8 hours or within 10 hours it will be fermented. And
Can't we cook it in any other steel vessel or?
so what happened was, when I tried this, I was so enthused the first time, and I was so happy with the result. And it was pandemic time, and folks at home liked whatever I made, and I found this ambli so delicious. The next day when we had it, that I started making it very often in that earthen pot, and in spite of being told it has to be cooked on low flame, which I followed, it developed a crack, and I couldn't use the pot anymore. So when I went back to them with a question, they told me that in case this is happening too frequently and it's not convenient for you to buy earthen pots, what you can do is you can cook in a steel vessel and then immediately transfer it in the earthen pot and then continue. I mean, you tie it with the cloth and allow it to ferment. But the fermentation is always better if you do it in an earthen pot. Okay, and I think Subhash here mentioned whether we can pressure cook. Now, according to Dr. Khadar, it is not advisable to pressure cook the millets, basically because when you pressure cook, the food fat jata hai, like the rice, or it just splits, and it is all under pressure and it just splits. So that is not the way we want a millet to be cooked. It is a delicate grain, and we need all the protein and all the fiber getting into our body in the right way. And it doesn't take long. It doesn't take more than 10 minutes if it is soaked well. It gets cooked very easily. Okay, so this is basically your ambali preparation. And remember, do not mix the millets. Like if you're using little millet for lunch, use little millet again for dinner. If in a day you're cooking millet both times, don't mix millets or multigrain. Nowadays you have multigrain atta. So similarly, you have multigrain millets. He says it is not advisable, because every millet, like Rashmi explained, every millet has a particular healing property. So if you mix the millets and put in your body, it is not like that particular millet will go and address that particular issue of yours. No, there'll be a total chaos in the body as well. So keep to one millet, and in the beginning, just make it say once a week or twice a week, and then slowly, if your body can take it, and if your people like it, and if you are happy making it, slowly increase the number of times that you eat the ambali preparation in a week. So what basically I do is I make ambli, say maybe twice or thrice a week, and the rest of the days I use it. The easiest form of using millets is to make dosas. You just substitute the rice with any of the millet and you make dosa, and कोणाचाही कळना color change आहे ना, unlike idlis where you know it एक पण soft एक पण hard till you get the right proportion, but in dosas it's a perfect hit, and the masala dosas are out of the world. Okay, so it's that amazing. So now this is about ambali preparation, but if you're making pulao, then your ratio of water would be 1:2 or maybe 2.5 to be on the safer side. You're
So
making
शिला आमली आमशस्त्व आहे.
आमश जाय ना
आमली कला म्हणतात का आमली? मला आमशी म्हणून आमली.
fermented.
Okay, okay, okay. Not amsh.
No, it is not amsh. But when you keep it in earthen pot, the consistency is different. You know, you can try. I mean, once you keep it in earthen pot and see how is the ambali consistency compared to kept in a steel vessel. अशी म्हणत आहे ओटू जाऊन येतात. And yeah, I think I forgot to mention this. What they say is once you roast it, you just not powder very fine, but chickage gar porka ek panda.
Yeah, pulse it.
Yeah.
You know, the other side of your mixie knob.
So yeah. So when you eat it becomes a porridge consistency end of the day, like when you're eating your ambli. So it's very tasty, and the only thing he says is, see, when you're eating idli or dosa or even bread for that matter is fermented preparation. But why do you consider ambli a superior food compared to idli or dosa or made out of millets or even yeah, Suresh will come to that. Hindi, yeah, will come to that. Yeah, Hindi names for positively. So because he says once the food is fermented and you cook it again, then a lot of nutrition is lost. Like idli batter, once it's fermented, it is properly fermented and it's really good, but you cannot eat it as it is. You have to cook it. So when you cook, at least maybe I don't know, maybe about 30 to 40% is lost, which is not what we want.
And also the probiotics die off when you heat it.
Yeah.
Extreme of heat and extreme of cold, they cannot take it.
Yes.
So the whole idea of fermenting it and eating it is lost when you.
Yeah. So there are only two foods which is very high. I mean, even after fermentation, you can eat it as it is. One is ambali or fermented porridge, and the second one is buttermilk. I mean, dahi taka. So he says buttermilk, you can, because you consume it just like that. You don't cook it. If you make ambat, taka ambat, and if you make dahi ka curry, again you're losing a lot of nutrition.
But taste when means do you add anything for taste?
Not when it is fermenting. You cannot. You should not add, because it again brings down the lactobacillus that I was mentioning about. It hampers the growth of lactobacillus. So what they suggest is after it is prepared, the chicken chap test. It's like plain rice. Okay. Now, you cannot eat plain rice just like that day after day. You tend to add some curry or sauce. Similarly, here you can add your dal or kalashilaji varana or khalamba or whatever you want. Or if you want a non-vegetarian curry, though it is not included in Khadarsa's lifestyle, he doesn't recommend meat. If you would like fish curry or whatever, you can have it with that. Not an issue now.
Yeah, but it's important to have it cold.
Yes.
As in with at the room temperature, and not to mix, let's say, hot dal or hot sambar along with it, because it still is going to destroy the good bacteria.
Now, what we have generally, what is liked here at home is dahi sheep.
Yeah.
So we just add curd to it later, mix with the salt and the thorn. And you cannot make out that it is not rice. Believe me, you cannot make out.
And this is which millet? Like any millet you can use for making ambali or a particular type?
You can use any millet, but like Rashmi showed, kodo millet is dark in color. So your porridge will also be darker in shade. So if you're particular about colors, if it should be as close to rice looking, then you can avoid kodo. Generally, what I use is little millet, foxtail, and barnyard. This is how I do. And those all go into dosas and idlis and wherever you can camouflage the color. So
Okay, I mean that Amli with different millets gives you different types of probiotics. So it is advisable to have, Amli made out of different types of millets regularly. It's good for your gut health. And as she mentioned, curd, salt, and I love eating it with pickle, homemade pickle, of course.
yeah,
So that's the best way to consume this.
drooling, right?
Sorry.
Drooling, Rashmi, we are drooling.
Now, see this millets is whatever you shared. It's more of a replacement for rice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what? How do I use it now? I'm mostly a chapati eater. I like chapati. So is roti the only way? What we make, na this bhakri types. Is that the only way you can use these millets? And that too, the more common ones which I have used are ragi, bajra, jawar. But what we are talking about are all different new names, barnyard and foxtail and those kind of things. So how do I integrate these millets in my regular diet without making too much of a change in?
See, millet flours are available everywhere. I haven't tried out millet flours because at home we are more of rice eaters, so it was easy for me for the transition. Millet flours are easily available, and if you check Khada sir's video or his daughter, Dr. Sarla, she also has a channel called on YouTube. She has a channel called Millet Magic. So there she gives you right up to how to make puris, how to make parathas, how to make, just replace wheat.
Okay.
So you will
So
find.
they give you a proportion, add urad dal and millet flour. So it's like, I think about 1/3 of or quarter of urad dal with 2/3 or 3/4 of millet ka flour, and mix it in and prepare it. But there are a couple of videos that I have seen around it. I don't remember the recipe on top of my head. So it's available on
Yeah.
YouTube. You can look it up. Yeah.
So that's what it is for ambali. And like I said, the amount of water that you need to cook depends on what you're making. So for different types of rice, it is less compared to ambali preparation.
You also mentioned about dosa, Ashika. So you replace rice with millets when you are making the dosa batter?
Yes, you just simply replace rice. I mean, I've been making pan poles, I've been making surnolis, I've been making masala dosas, you name it. I've been making idlis. You just replace, initially, you make a small quantity so that it is well taken at home. But the easiest, like I said, the easiest way is to make dosas.
Yeah, neer dosas also taste really yum,
Yeah.
especially kodo and brown top. Everybody at
Okay.
home loves it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how. And not only ambali, I mean, like I said, the fermented food, it's not that you just need to eat ambali all the time. The way that I mentioned, like not be doishit all the time. Ambali that you have, you can make different things with it. Like, say, suppose faluda. Faluda chumuraka you will find normally sabja asthana. So you instead of sabja you can put this ambali and on top of it your normal that cold milk and your dry fruits or whatever. So your faluda is very healthy. So try to incorporate it in different ways where you are not disturbing the ambali as it is. like you're keeping the ambli as it is. Or you can make a smoothie. You add a few couple of bananas, or you add little dahi and a little bit of nuts, and you puree it, and your banana smoothie is ready. So it all depends on how you use the ambli in whichever way you want. It's a continuous.
Just
Yeah.
one question. You can make it and keep it, is it? You can refrigerate it, or you have to consume it immediately?
It's ideal to consume it post that period of fermentation, because if you leave it for longer, then there are more bacteria that grow and which may not be helpful.
Okay.
And if you refrigerate again, you would want to vomit up, which is not
Yeah.
advisable. So the thing is lost.
So prepare the quantity that you need and try and finish it off for that meal, ideally.
So, any questions, Rashmi? I think we are done with most of what we had wanted to say.
Yeah.
So, if there are any questions, maybe.
Yeah. I just want to ask what
Huh.
Chitra has rightly said. We are chapati bhakri eaters.
Hmm.
Okay. So you say 6 or 8 hours soaking is required. Normally, आम्ही चपाती आणि करताना तितकी soak पण करणार नाही. So if you get a powder in the market, suppose, how will you soak and how will you make a dough of this? How will you make a bhakris?
No. The flour that you get in the market, you have to use it like any atta. Okay.
Cooking only for ambli.
So, no. Soaking is for any other dish other than the powder, other than the flour. But they also tell you how to make flour at home. So if you go to the videos, they say you have to wash it. First you have to roast it and wash it and then dry it in the sun completely, and then have it, powder. Like how you do gav hanu, आम्ही गावापेटी कशी करतात. Similarly.
Even kani kartat, ne kani powder, maybe similar to
It's
that.
like that, yeah.
Right.
That means on mixer we'll have to make that powder.
No, you can take
Na mill anporka padtala.
Yeah,
Mill.
you have to take it to the
mill.
girni or whatever
Right.
it's called. Yeah, like that. Even rice undias, if you're making at home, people tell like that. Or original way is to do like that, but it's a little cumbersome. No, wash it, soak it, dry in the sun, dry in the sun. All that is. But flour
But-
is available.
Well,
Flowers are available.
But flowers, you never know, no? It might be mixed. Like-
Absolutely.
you get
It's
out.
better to make your flours yourself.
yeah.
So
Next
actually,
question.
yeah.
Positive grains asat pada. Where you get on Amazon we'll have to order, because normally in the market we get ragi, bajra, jowar. These are the grains available, or millets available. But these are the special one, like little millets, foxtail millet, barnyard. Where you get this exactly?
You could visit a local organic store around your area. For sure available on Amazon. Big Basket is available in Mumbai area, so it's available on Big Basket also. I order from Big Basket many a time.
But any Hindi particular name is there, or only English name?
You can use the English names of it. There are Hindi names to it too. But I'm using the English names because it's kind of common across, right? So because I speak Kannada, you speak Marathi, and there must be somebody who speaks a different language. So English is what is generally available. I'm sure there are names available if we just search for it. If you want, I can search and
No,
share
I
it
have
with
found
you guys.
I found the names also. Maybe I'll just share it on the group
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, in fact, I wanted that. I wanted the Indian names for these because
Yeah.
all the whatever millets we know are all not what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Only
correct.
because we know only the common ones, like I told sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's nice to know the Indian names.
Yeah.
And Suresh, these I have found these in supermarkets actually also.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have seen because now it's millets also growing in popularity.
Yeah.
Yes.
True.
So they are available in. I have seen them, though I have bought only once, and I think like Rashmi said, I think I didn't soak it enough. Also because I didn't know it was to be soaked. Also, I made
Right.
idlis with it. I don't, since I made it only once, I don't recall any problem that happened. But I never know. Like I might have not linked it also. but but the idlis came out well. I enjoyed it also, but it was like a one time. It was nice. I mean, make it, eat it, forget it, and then go back to your normal.
Yeah.
Other
Actually,
idlis which are easier to make.
initially when you start eating millets, it looks like a big task because you have to soak it and then again you have to cook it. But then eventually it becomes a part of routine. Like I know, okay, suppose if I'm going to eat for lunch, so by after by the previous day I will just roast it and soak, and by night I'll see that it's soaked for 8 hours and ferment it and keep.
I know. Just have to plan the
Yes, yes.
plan.
So initially it's like
But you can have it on a daily basis, or you
No,
can,
absolutely. Yeah,
because
yeah.
because Sheila, Amma was saying that the can I khao nak mun sanglya.
no, actually, like even today I was referring to Dr. Khadar's interview by his daughter. So he said that if you have no health issues, if you're taking it as a maintenance dose, then even twice a week or thrice a week is good enough.
Okay.
Okay, this is what he specifically, this was in April 2020 that he spoke. So he said even twice a week, the ambali preparation. The other days you can use the millets in any other form. You can make even rulam, upma,
Yeah.
shida, whatever. So, or you can make, like I said, you can make pulaus, and you can see the videos. I mean, it's n number of dishes that are put up. So, but the ambali preparation, which is very required for the gut, he said twice a week you can start with, and then slowly once your body is used to it, you can, if you like it, you can have it every day.
Okay.
If you're addressing a particular a problem, issue with your body, then yes, you have to have it all 3 meals as ambali. There's a
Oh,
protocol to be
It is going to
followed.
help you fast in the process.
Yes.
okay.
It's
Okay.
not a compulsion, but if consuming, let's say, little millet for over 6 months is going to help us get rid of our health issue. If we are consuming ganji made of little millet, then probably it won't take 6 months. 3 to 4 months, maybe. I'm just throwing in a number for the sake
Yeah,
of it, because it differs from person to person how our bodies react to,
exactly.
and how long we have had that ailment, and there are multiple things that factor in.
And we mix these grains like mixed grain atas, and you get in the market.
No,
Like
that
multi-grain atas you get in the market. Same way, can you mix all millets together?
no, you should not be mixing these grains together, because each millet gives you a different type of nutrition. It works on different parts of your body. So if you mix, you're confusing your body.
So will there be any negative impact on our body? Like what I
No,
what
there
I
wouldn't be
saw.
any negative impact. It would more be like, you're just eating to fill your stomach.
No, because one of your slides said that one particular millet will help neuro-related,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
neuro-related problems.
Yeah.
So, if I have to give it to a person who has some neurological disorder,
Mhm.
um, most of these medicines which you take, the alternate medicines, not the allopathic, the alternate medicines which you take,
Hmm.
it aggravates the problem and then it starts working on the person.
Okay.
So similarly, will something like that, are there any chances of something like that happening if I give it to a person?
uh it again depends on how that person body takes it, right? So when I started initially, I used to have a little bit of bloating.
Okay.
When I used to pass motions like thrice a day at times, like
Hmm.
that, till my body gets used to that, okay, this is something that is going to be given fed to me on a regular basis. So those initial few days, few weeks, and it depends again from person to person. But when my parents and my brother, sister-in-law went, they did not really face this problem.
Okay.
It was like a smooth transition. So, like, I wouldn't suggest from tomorrow you have all 3 meals as millets, because your body also needs to get used to it. What you could do is probably you can have 1 meal of a day as millet, and gradually increase it to 2 meals, and then to, like, all the 3 meals of millets.
Okay.
Make it a slow progress. give time for your body also to understand that this is something that is being introduced.
Okay.
And again, I am no doctor to suggest this, but I'm just telling it out of my experience, how it worked out for a couple of friends.
Okay.
Okay, do we move on to the next slide?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, a couple of images of yummy food that Sheila ji has prepared. Sheila ji, you want to tell them what all these are?
This is what I've been trying since pandemic. I knew Prakash would react to this. So the first one is your millet and vegetable cutlet. So I just want you folks to know that millet can be enjoyed in a normal way, and you can incorporate it in your day-to-day life with all these things. You just need to think a little bit and see where you can add millets every day. Okay, so you have millet and vegetable cutlet, and the second slide is a biryani which we had made out of millets. I think little millets is what I'd use. And the last one, can somebody guess what it is? Other than my sister.
Hey, I wanted to tell.
I wanted to tell.
Momos.
Sorry?
Momos.
I would call them Indian momos. Can you tell me what it could be?
Kobe.
Yes, this is cabbage patrada.
Oh,
Oh, great.
Okay, and the stuffing is millets. So the stuffing is, instead of rice, I have replaced it with millets. The other masole remains the same. Okay. So,
Okay, I'll go to the next slide.
yeah. Okay. Now here on the right side, you have your popular jowar roti with chutney and homemade butter. And then down you have capsicum bhaja, pakoras. Now the flour that I used here is jowar. And above the pakoras, you have these pudlets, what we call padullets. So padul, snake guard, you slice and the millet stuffing. Okay, and some I've used. I think the stuffing got over, so some I used besan and millet in that. So you have that. Then on the left top is ragi and choco chip cake. Which came out very well. I mean, even I never believed that a ragi cake could be, but I think Renuka uses a lot of millet in her cakes, so maybe she could share some recipes also. So this is ragi cake, and below that you'll find millet nuggets. Okay, the stuffing is millet and potato, so they are millet and millet nuggets.
These are all
Since
little.
most of us are in Bangalore, so can you send some hands?
actually feeling hungry now.
These are all little millets.
Not
little?
necessary. No, not necessary. I don't remember now, Suresh, because like I said, these images are like for the over the past 10 months that I've been using. But maybe in the pudlets it was little millet, or sometimes what happens is when I make ambli, like I think Rekha asked, what do you do with if it is leftover? So when it is leftover, you cannot keep. I don't keep it in the fridge. I make it into something like this. I know I'm heating it and I'm not supposed to, but then once in a while it's okay, cheat day. So,
Suresh loves experimenting. Suresh, focus.
yeah. So this is how it is.
I
And
love it.
now this one, today being a Valentine's Day and we're all sporting red color. This is exactly what I was talking about. This is a strawberry millet pudding. It comes out very well, much delicious than maybe a normal pudding where you make it very rich. So here, what I've done is I've used the ambali at the bottom, and I also mixed little bit of chia seeds here because it was originally supposed to be chia pudding. So I knew my Viha wouldn't touch it unless she sees some chia seeds. So I did use little bit of chia seeds, but you can use only ambali. And I added little fresh milk. Now here the milk that I've used is peanut milk. Now you can use coconut milk or Mary Narla Rasu, or you can use peanut milk, or you can use cashew milk or almond milk or sesame milk, any milk. So, if you refer Dr. Khadar's recipes, there is he tells you exactly how peanut milk you can make and how it is more beneficial than having normal milk, because it is full of proteins, and being plant based, the absorption is better. Similarly, till seasoned milk, I think in Shirali Mart also they give us tilach udak. So seasoned milk also you can use. So here I've used peanut milk and sliced strawberries and little bit of honey, and I think some cranberries on top because I had that. So but it's,
That ambali which you made, which you put in the bottom, so tak to sakar घालावा की you
no.
it's
Sugar
plain.
is a big no-no in the
Okay.
lifestyle. I mean, in his lifestyle. No sugar. Taka,
It's
thode honey, you can mix a
okay.
little bit of honey. And then or you can mix, what I did was I mixed ambali and the peanut milk and little honey. Cold milk, okay, cold milk.
Yeah.
And then I topped it with the fruit. So you can use any fruit. You can use chiku, you can use banana, whatever. And then you put it in an attractive glass, and I think it's up for grabs.
Lovely.
So this is how. There is also, I don't know whether Rashmi had sent you that or Aka, there is also something like a drink, a beverage which Dr. Khadar recommend, that is made out of chana.
Yeah,
It
you had
is
sent
like,
that to me. I'm
yeah.
sorry I missed out adding that.
No problem. It is something like coffee. It's a replacement for coffee, made out of roasted chana and
Yeah, you had sent it sometime back, I think.
so roasted chana powder, and then you add milk, so your coffee is ready. So that's all.
Yeah, there are a lot of yummy ideas where you can replace your regular teas and coffees and sweets and things like that with something healthier and nutritious. So I really recommend you guys to follow these channels on YouTube and try out new things and be healthier.
So you will share the link, Rashmi?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I will.
Fine. Fine.
Okay. Okay, moving on, just last few things that I thought will be required to, give it a right ending. So millets are not just good for us, it's good for our mother earth too. As I mentioned, a lot of fertilizers and chemicals and insecticides, pesticides, everything is doing a lot of harm to our to the soil. So if this continues probably another 50 years or so, and then none of the soil is going to be good for cultivation. So it's high time, we fall back to what was being done earlier and save what is left of it. So growing millets is going to be helpful for the earth also. If you look at this chart on the right hand side, it just to give a perspective, to grow sugarcane, to manufacture 1 kg of sugar, about 28,000 liters of water is required, and about 8,000 liters of water to grow 1 kilo of rice, and about 300 liters to grow a positive millet. So you can see how different, drastically lower amount of water is required to grow millets, which are good for us. So it does not even require any extra care to be taken to grow, like pesticides and things like that. It's not required to be put. Um, and yeah, millets can be grown on low fertile soil. It requires very less water. So, and it's going to be beneficial for farmers too. The more millet consumption happens, the more millet grows. Millet will be grown. So, higher the demand, higher will be the supply. So, which leads to farmers also having a better life, leading to lesser farmer suicides. So this is something that I feel everybody should just step back and think as to, we're taking so much from this earth, from the environment around us. How are we paying back? So this is like
This organic,
a thought.
non-organic also, both?
So you don't need anything to be added to grow this. So any millet that's grown is organic. So there's nothing called as non-organic millet over here because it does not require fertilizer to be added, a chemical
Okay.
fertilizer. Okay, and one last thing, since we spoke so much about millets, I just want to reiterate that just by eating millets doesn't mean that you're going to be in a very good health, because of course it is going to enhance your health from what you currently are to, move it, go a better step. But then there are a lot of other things also that need to be a part of this. So a good health is a combination of multiple things, including what we eat, what we drink, how we breathe, where we breathe, and regular exercises. So avoiding plastic is one of the important things that I want to point out here, because drinking water from plastic bottles, storing oil in plastic bottles, storing food, carrying lunch in plastic. So plastic is, at the end of the day, a petroleum product. The best of the plastic, throwing Tupperware as a name over here, also releases toxins into your food. So the more we use plastic, the more toxin that gets into our food and it settles in our body. And that's something that we do not need. So avoid plastic as much as possible. Things like, carrying a bag to get your vegetables, buying vegetables from a local vendor, the street side vendor, than going to a supermarket where each and every vegetable is packed in plastic and given to you, and it's stored in cold storage. Instead of that, pick up vegetables which are fresher, and help out uh, a street vendor make a better living. You're taking fresh food, because a refrigerated food, you don't know how many days old it is. It looks nice, colorful and big in the refrigerator, but by the time you get back home, you realize that it's not as fresh as you thought it is. This a video, there's a lot of mention about structured water if you look at Dr. Khader's talks. So structured water is basically water which is positively charged because of use of copper plates. So what he says is, store water in copper vessels as much as possible, but if you can't do it, store water in steel and put a copper plate in that. So the water gets positively charged. Like if you think about this, whenever we are near a water body, let's say a river or a sea or a waterfall, the minute we step into this water, you feel rejuvenated. It's because of moving water, there is a lot of positive charge in that water. But then a stagnant water is not going to do that to our body. Sorry, do that to the water. So when we drink river water, or when we drink water from waterfalls, and the kind of freshness we feel, similar kind of freshness is felt when you drink water from which has been copper processed. So also it's important that I have seen, I think Tata Swatch or some brand like that has come up with filters which have like copper at the bottom and plastic on the top.
Yes.
So that is not really going to help, because every time this water is charged, it pushes up. The water on the top is what you need to consume, because if you get water out of the tap, you're drinking whatever is at the bottom, which has all the negative things that needs to be discarded. So that is not really going to help. So whenever you're consuming water from a copper vessel, or with a vessel, a steel vessel which has a copper plate in it, consume the water which is on the top. If you look at it, niche, there will be like this dust kind of particles floating. Discard that water, wash everything thoroughly, fill up fresher water, and consume it again. And Dr. Khader also insists on having bull-driven Ghana oil. This is something which our grandparents had been following, where you had this bulls circling around, and then there was oil that was taken out. So oil being taken out this way is going to retain all the nutritional value. Of course, it's high on cholesterol side, but then it's the good cholesterol that your body needs. It's kind of oiling the joints in your body. So you will need all the nutrition that you get out of the bull-driven oil, the cold press oil, which is the closest to the bull-driven oil that you can consume. Because if you look at a refined oil, what happens is during the process of refining the oil, oils are boiled at about 1,000+ degrees centigrade. So imagine the amount of nutrition that will be left in the oil. So consuming this kind of oil is not going to be beneficial for your health. So this is again another thing that needs to be thought about. And to add to this point, if we are paying anywhere between 150 and 200 rupees per kilo of groundnut, right? How can we get 1 liter of oil for about the same price? Because we need at least 2 to 3 kgs of groundnuts to make 1 liter of oil. So imagine the amount of adulteration that is happening in these refined oils. Are we even eating the right thing?
Like even about sunflower, he says the same thing. Now the sunflower oils, refined oils are available at 90 rupees a liter.
Exactly.
So he asks us a simple question. He says, "Do you see sunflower? That many sunflowers being grown everywhere? No. So where are you getting the oil from?" So it's just, you know, when he points it out, it's very logical that chemicals are being used to make refined oils.
Yeah, I mean, I buy sunflower oil for my salads. So, sorry, sunflower seeds for the salads.
Hmm.
I pay about anywhere between 40 and 50 rupees for about 100 grams of
Yeah.
Sunflower seeds.
Hmm.
So, if I calculate a kilo of sunflower seeds, it's about 400 rupees.
Yeah, exactly.
So, how can I get 1 liter of sunflower oil for 99 rupees? Right? Even assuming the seller is making 50% profit out of it, 1 kilo of sunflower oil costs, let's say, 200 rupees. We'll need at least two, because not each particle of the sunflower seed becomes the oil, right?
Right.
There is something that's left over.
Yeah.
So between 2 and 3 kgs of seeds is what is required to make oil out of it.
Hmm.
So just give it a thought. All these years, what have we been eating? Right? I mean, we did not have knowledge of this earlier.
Yeah.
Unknowingly, we have done a lot of wrong things and we have hurt ourselves, and a lot of us are facing health issues. Right? When now that there is awareness about it, let's try and alter. I would rather eat 1 kilo or 1 liter of oil less than consume an adulterated oil. You know, if I'm looking at it from money point of view.
True.
Yeah. So go for positive millets because they help heal a lot of ailments. And do not consume genetically modified food as far as possible. The biggest example is our American sweet corn, which is very tasty to eat, and you know, you can chew on it very easily, and it's so sweet, and you feel so good eating it, but then it's not good for your body. Maida goes on the list about processed food, and we'll get there. Eat seasonal organic fruits and vegetables wherever possible, because nature knows what you need in which season. You don't get oranges. The nature doesn't make oranges in summers. It's made in winter because it needs to be consumed in winter. Right? So look at getting seasonal fruits and vegetables, and as far as possible organic, because you don't want to eat unnecessary fertilizers with them. But then where not available, Dr. Khadar says that you can soak it in, let's say, tamarind water or lemon water, where whatever citric is available around you, use that, dilute it, soak it in water for about 30 minutes, wash it with clean water, dry it up, and then use it. So that helps you get rid of a lot of pesticides and fertilizers that have been unnecessarily sprayed on them. Dr. Kader also mentions a lot of kashayas that need to be had. It's as simple as getting leaves which are around us, mostly guava, tamarind leaves, and drumstick leaves, neem and people, and a lot of plants, like plants which are all around us. It's just that we need to pay attention to it. So it's very easily available. And these are mentioned specifically for building immunity, helping with ailments like things like PCOD, diabetes, um, and asthma, and a lot of things like that. A PDF of his, which is called the Siridhanya Protocol. I will be sharing it with you guys soon. That has a mention of all these. So this is something that you can easily follow, and you can replace your morning teas or coffees with this. Drinking 1 cup less of tea and coffee in the morning is you're headed in the right direction. And avoid processed food, um, because processed food like your bakery and chips and packaged food that is available, all are they have a lot of preservatives, a lot of salt, a lot of sugar in them, which your body does not require. The closer the food to its origin, the better it is for our health. Instead of drinking, let's say, a maza, I'm just using maza as a name for my mango drink here. I'm referring to all the mango drinks that are available in bottles or Tetra packs. Drink mango, make a mango juice at home, or even better, eat mangoes during the season.
Yeah. In that processed food, Rashmi, he also mentions about soya.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he says you avoid
soya
soya
also.
because it is too processed. It has
Right.
no nutrition.
Yeah. And he advocates on drinking plant-based milk, which Sheila covered in the previous slide. You can make milk out of literally every seed. You have to soak it and put about 8 to 10 times more of water, and you get good milk out of it.
Even
And
millet milks, I think. Have you tried them? Millet milk?
no, I have tried peanut, sesame, and
Yeah.
coconut milk so far.
Yeah.
I love the flavor of coconut milk. I make them in small batches that I can consume within a day.
Yeah.
And yeah, mostly I'm making paisa or making the coffee that you mentioned. Yeah. And also use of Teflon coated non-stick cookware and aluminum vessels, um, because what happens is whenever you heat it up and there is food that is being prepared in it, there is a lot of these material like aluminum and Teflon which gets mixed up with your food, and these eventually lead to carcinogenic cells, increase in carcinogenic cells in the body. You don't want to head that way knowingly. So avoid using Teflon non-stick cookwares and aluminum vessels for cooking wherever possible. Even if you have to cook in aluminum and don't store it in aluminum, transfer it to steel or ceramic or a glass. Ideally use iron pans, tawas for your dosas and chapatis and parathas. Brassware wherever available with a tin coating, otherwise you can't prepare anything sour in it. Earthen pots are the best because earthen pots have a lot of these minerals that is there in that soil, which comes into the food when you cook in them. That when Shilaji was talking, she said that cooking ambali in earthen pots tastes different from cooking the same ambali in a stainless steel. It's because of this. The extra minerals that get added from the earthen pots is what makes the difference. And also talking about amli, because these earthen pots are porous, it helps develop, or rather it helps the food ferment faster.
Correct.
Yeah. And microwave again is a type of radiation. So is the use of our mobiles, because that's also a type of radiation. So wherever possible, avoid the way. I mean, we cannot live without them, but if you can avoid using them, please do avoid. Try using a different way of uh, uh, getting your work done. Even if you have to speak on the phone, speak for lesser time. There have been studies which show these waves, the radiation affects your brain's nervous system. And microwave also, again, it kills the nutrition of the food that you're heating up, you're warming up, or you're cooking. So you don't want to head that way. All that we are doing, all the struggle in this life, all the work that we are doing to earn money and everything eventually boils down to being healthy. If we're doing things which do not let us be healthy, then it's no use of doing those things, is my take on life. And with this, I just want to spread the word of, eat healthy, stay healthy. You don't have to go to see the doctors or pay a lot of money on medicines if you take good care of your health. And these are the things which are easily available, and these are the things which you can easily do. Not easily do, but you'll have to put in an extra effort. I take that word back. But then if it's going to help you get a better health, develop a healthier lifestyle, then why not? And I close by saying this.
I just want to know, does rolled oats comes under this category?
Oats would not come in this list.
But they are supposed to be better, right?
Yeah, they are good for health because they have a lot of fibers in them. They have a lot of fibers in them. But I haven't really gone oats way. I have been strictly following what Dr. Khadar says.
Yeah.
So I don't really have anything to add to it, but I'm aware that it is rich in fibers. It is rich in good fibers. It is helpful, but I don't know how far it has healing capabilities. Now, a few things here and there, even I get to temptations. I also have had my share of rice biryanis and chapatis and parathas. And also when I go out, I cannot really insist on I have to eat millets everywhere, every time. But try to make a healthier choice, have more of soups, have more of salads, and less of rice, and have more of curries, less of parathas and less of rice. So even though you're eating something which is negative, you're not overdoing it. No, it's just the choices that we make.
You can in fact make soups also out of millets. I mean, you can cook the millets and grind it along with your vegetables, and your soup is, I mean, along with the vegetables, and you have a healthy soup there. And Suresh, I think I was just checking out on what you asked right now about oats. And there is a particular website which gives a comparison of both. So maybe I'll just share it on the group once we are done with this. So we can have a look at that.
Okay, so I will share with Sheila ji the PDF that I was talking about, the Millet Protocol PDF, and I'm going to give you guys in fact, I had it on the last slide, but it's not going to help. So I will share it through WhatsApp.
Yes.
And you can visit those YouTube pages and get more information around them. And as she mentioned, they're very active on Facebook. You have any questions, you go ask them there, they respond within like 2-3 hours at the most.
Yes, you can write to them privately, or you can post it on the group. Either way, the response time is very quick.
Yeah.
So I think that's it.
Yeah. Oh, 8 already. You spoke for 2 hours.
And Rashmi, you were saying that 1 hour will be too much, and we didn't know how the time passed.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
Yeah, very interesting session.
very interesting and informative. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Subash, tu kale सांगचेस वा?
Yeah. I mean, if you have finished, the both of you, I mean, it's such a
Done. Yeah.
eye-opener. Eye-opener means, eye-opener is a small word. I mean, even shock came to this session. I mean, just mind-boggling. I mean, what we are doing all these years and what we are supposed to do, I mean, like, there's a lot of changes.
absolutely. I mean, Yeah, I mean,
anyway,
unknowingly we have eaten so many things that we shouldn't have, but
yeah,
that
yeah.
we know it's high time that we make the right choice and get a good hold on our health.
So, Rashmi and Sheila, this session is really can be a stepping stone. I mean, turning point. I can say turning point. So tomorrow onwards, every time we eat, we'll remember both of you. You know what we are doing, and that conscious will start telling us. At least start changing. Of course, as you said, overnight changes are not possible.
Yeah.
Because all these years we were used to particular kind of eating and all. But at least that awareness you have created in all of us, in our thinking, in our mindset. So I think that will help us going forward. And you both have done a lot of homework. I can see. I mean, a lot of homework, a lot of effort to brief us on all these aspects, right from history of millet, then how it came, everything.
Yeah, true. I mean, this was something that none of us knew, right? I mean, even I, till I got deep into it, I was also not I didn't know something like millet existed. I was like, okay, this seems to be something new that they're coming up with, and a healthier option and things like that. But then when you actually look into it, this has been there for really long, and we were not aware of it.
Correct.
Because it if I have to say this, I don't know, I'm saying this on a recording, just because it is profitable to a certain group of economy, it doesn't mean that it needs to be rubbed across, right? At the end of the day, if half the crowd is diabetic and you're getting insulin injections and you're not eating enough the right kind of food and things like that, you just keep going back to the doctors and refill your medicines and everything. It is a way of making money for them, right? At the cost of our health. I'm talking about diabetes because it's so widespread. So imagine the other kind of ailments which are there, and these are just because of our lifestyle and nothing else.
So thanks a lot for bringing that awareness in all of us. We will be remembered now. I think at least next few days, few months, perhaps I'll remember you, both of you.
I feel honored with whatever you're talking, but the whole intention of doing this, putting everything together, and Sheila, with a lot of help from Sheila ji, was to spread the awareness of just think before whatever you're eating or you're drinking. It's not like from tomorrow you have to start eating millets, but millet is a big option that you have, and now it's available. Yeah, I mean, I am not trying to convert anybody over here, to be very frank. One of my son is good with eating millets, the other one is not. My father-in-law doesn't eat millets regularly. My mother-in-law eats millet regularly. So literally, like, we split. Half the family eats, half the family doesn't. I am cooking twice now, but then what I am, as Sheila ji mentioned, what I'm trying to do is I am trying to get them eat millet at least once in 2 days, like one breakfast, or I make khichdi out of it, or I make idli out of it, neer dosa out of it, whatever. Like you, at least every alternative day, you're consuming one type of millet. That at least that much is satisfying for me for now.
It does take time. I mean, initially when I made millet khichdi or biryani, you should have seen the faces. It's like they were too scared. Like, what is coming on the dining table? Is it millets? Like, if I say, okay, aaj hao biryani ke liye, I say, is it millets? But now I think either they've given up or they've just got used to it. So it was just a matter of time.
In fact, my father is from a farming background. Okay. So when we told him we are going to prepare millets and give it to you, he's like, this is not something we eat. We used to feed this to the cattle. We can't eat this. That is what he said. That is how he reacted. I can never forget that. This is
The
not
cattle
something
was
that we
healthy,
can
Lakshmi. Your cattle was healthy.
So, great session. So thank you very much. We have recorded it also.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm
you.
sorry we kind of overshot, but there was a lot of information that we had to put together.
Very interesting.
Thank you everybody for being patient and listening to us.
Wonderful. God bless you. God bless you. both of you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thanks
Thank
a
you
lot.
very much.
Thanks,
GP team.
Sheila. Thanks,
Yeah.
Rashmi.
Thanks,
Thank you, Rashmi and Sheila.
Fantastic
Subhash.
session.
Thanks everyone.
Both are actually millet women of GPSM health, I should say.
Millennials. Millennials.
We are just trying to
Because
spread
we
I
were
think, what Dr.
actually
Khader
not
has
aware
said.
of somebody who's like Kadar Wali you mentioned, who's known as Millet Man of India, you know. Lot of information. Thank you so much.
Actually, Sheila's been trying to tell both Chitra and me from a long time. And she's been sending us these pictures, which are very tempting. But I don't think Chitra and I got to do
What
anything.
happens is when you're the youngest sister, you're never taken seriously.
Prakash, why?
That's not the case. I've not had the time. And though, like I said, I've used ragi a lot. Ragi, bajra, jawar I've used. These other
Yeah.
millets are, something unfamiliar at all.
Yes.
I mean,
But here-
now I think when you say, and
Very
why are they called
interesting.
millets? Ragi is called ragi, but others are called millets, so that they make them sound little,
Ragi
exotic.
is
And
called as
So
finger
ragi
millet.
is also a type of millet.
no, I know, but we know it
Yeah,
by
yeah.
ragi. By it's more
Right.
familiar. I'm saying where others are all termed as millets, so they
Yeah.
make it's a little out of
Right.
reach. It seems
But
like
Subhash,
that, but
yeah,
now
yeah.
yeah.
Probably once you get the Hindi or Marathi names of them, you would be able to relate to them
Yeah,
better
that's
because
true.
it's a thing
Yeah.
that we are already using and we're not
Yeah,
aware of it.
Yeah,
True.
exactly what I said. Oh, hanch was will be the reaction.
Yeah. So, and also there is no, they've seen enough of me already.
So,
So,
Shubham also, thank you very much for introducing.
Yeah, thanks, Shubham.
Amaka.
Yes, Shubham, it was wonderful meeting Rashmi.
Subhash,
No, I think I know now where Shubham gets her energy from.
But one thing is very important that somebody had said ki, when I read, I recollect. When I see, I remember. But when I implement, I understand. So
absolutely.
Wow.
Correct.
Good. Yeah.
once we implement, then we will understand. Otherwise, we
Yeah.
When you guys start off with this, it may seem to be a lot of work, but please don't give up on it.
Yeah.
Right? At least try to make one meal to begin with and eventually increase it.
I have already ordered. So from maybe tomorrow,
I know. You said that you ordered.
So next Sunday we'll see some millet dish on
this
the.
will do some experiments. He loves it.
So you share your recipes with us then.
After 6 months, we'll get a effect of all this.
Sorry, I had to go to attend some other call in between. So I was not there for almost half an hour.
Only by listening this lecture, we
I'll
got it.
refer to the YouTube video.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Chalo, bye.
We'll share it with them.
you,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye all of you.
Well, stay
Thanks,
healthy.
Rekha and Subhash Lata for this
Yeah.
fantastic
Thank
session
you.
as always. Thank